I wanted to be a dancer. And I wanted to go home and I wanted to get married and I wanted to be normal. I'd made sort of a life plan and be happy because that's what I wanted, happiness, family. And it didn't quite turn out that way.
At 80 years old, Goldie Hawn has spent more than half a century navigating the unpredictable terrain of Hollywood. She arrived as a bubbly, wide-eyed performer on Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In and departed each decade, having claimed roles that cemented her place among the most enduring talents in American cinema. And now, with age granting her a candor she once kept carefully guarded, she has begun speaking with unusual honesty about the actors who made her professional life genuinely difficult. Number 6. Chevy Chase. Few Hollywood pairings appeared as naturally effortless as the one between Goldie Hawn and Chevy Chase. Their 1978 romantic thriller, Foul Play, became one of the most commercially successful comedies of its era, and audiences responded with warmth to what looked like genuine chemistry between two people who simply enjoyed each other's company. 2 years later, they reunited for Seems Like Old Times, written by Neil Simon, which drew on that same easy rapport. From the outside, it looked like a partnership built on mutual appreciation and professional ease. Behind the cameras, the reality was considerably more complicated. Chase had left Saturday Night Live after just one season in 1975, widely regarded as the show's first major breakout star. His departure generated resentment among cast members who felt abandoned, and when he returned to host in February 1978, that simmering hostility boiled over in one of the most infamous backstage confrontations in television history. Bill Murray, his replacement on Weekend Update, told Chase directly that everyone on the show despised him. The confrontation turned physical, with Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi having to physically separate the two men. The altercation became legendary, described by witnesses including Jane Curtin and Lorraine Newman as deeply painful and uncomfortable to watch. That same year, Chase was starring in Foul Play alongside Hawn, and the contrast between his public persona and his private reputation was stark. A 2026 CNN documentary titled I'm Chevy Chase and You're Not brought together a remarkable group of collaborators to assess his legacy honestly. Among those who appeared in the documentary were Dan Aykroyd, Beverly D'Angelo, Martin Short, and Goldie Hawn herself. The documentary made clear that Chase had developed a reputation across decades of productions for treating colleagues, directors, and crew members with a contempt that left lasting impressions. Chris Columbus, who directed National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation in 1989, reportedly stepped down mid-production after claiming Chase treated him like dirt. Joel McHale, his castmate on the television series Community, stated publicly that the two had come to blows more than once, with one altercation severe enough to dislocate Chase's shoulder. Hawn's appearance in the documentary was telling. She appeared to offer some defense of Chase, yet her presence in a film scrutinizing his documented pattern of destructive behavior spoke volumes about how that chapter of her career registered with her. The chemistry audiences witnessed on screen in Foul Play and Seems Like Old Times was real enough to generate box office returns, but the performance required more than talent. It required a professional discipline that only Hawn's experience and composure made possible. What looks like joy in the frame is sometimes just the work of someone who has learned to manage. For decades, Goldie Hawn kept things classy, charming, and mostly private. But at 80, the legendary actress decided to speak candidly about 6 actors she simply could not stand working with. Some stories are awkward, others completely unbelievable. Keep watching, because the final name might surprise everyone. Number 5. Warren Beatty. Goldie Hawn first appeared on screen opposite Warren Beatty in the 1971 heist film Dollars, shot in Germany, and she has spoken candidly about finding him so physically striking that she could barely process his presence. That early awe evolved over the following years into a working relationship that stretched across 3 films, culminating in the catastrophic production of Town and Country in 2001. The journey from nervous admiration in 1971 to exhausted disbelief 30 years later tells a story about what happens when talent and self-regard become permanently fused. Their 1975 collaboration Shampoo, directed by Hal Ashby, placed Hawn in the role of Jill, the girlfriend of Beatty's promiscuous hairdresser character. The film was co-written by Beatty himself, which meant his vision governed every creative decision from the first day of production to the last. Beatty's approach to filmmaking has always been marked by an obsessive attention to detail and a willingness to repeat scenes far beyond the point where most actors and directors would consider the work complete. For performers working opposite him, this can translate into marathon shooting days, endless takes on dialogue that seemed perfectly captured hours earlier, and a general atmosphere in which the star's creative anxieties take precedence over everyone else's time and comfort. Town and Country, released in April 2001, after one of the most troubled productions in Hollywood history, became a case study in what unchecked star power can do to a film and to the people surrounding it. The script was incomplete when principal photography began. Production stretched across nearly 3 years, with reshoots ordered in 2000, 2 full years after the original photography had wrapped. Director Peter Chelsam's relationship with Beatty deteriorated so severely that reports described a physical altercation between them. Diane Keaton was forced to leave production to fulfill other commitments before the film was even finished. The budget ballooned toward $90 million. When Town and Country finally reached theaters, it grossed approximately $6.5 million domestically, making it one of the most spectacular financial disasters in modern Hollywood. Hawn, who played Mona alongside Beatty's Porter, Keaton's Ellie, and Gary Shandling's Griffin, watched this disaster unfold from within it. She had come to the production as an experienced performer and producer who understood how films were made and how control could be exercised responsibly. What she encountered on the set of Town and Country was something else entirely. The experience contributed to what became a long hiatus from acting. After The Banger Sisters in 2002, she did not appear in another theatrical film for 15 years. How much of that withdrawal reflected exhaustion with productions like Town and Country will likely never be stated as bluntly as it could be. Number 4. Mel Gibson, Bird on a Wire, the 1990 action comedy, directed by John Badham, brought Goldie Hawn and Mel Gibson together as former lovers thrown back into each other's lives by circumstances neither could have predicted. The film earned mixed reviews, but became a significant box office success, grossing nearly $140 million worldwide. Gibson and Hawn generated the kind of genuine screen energy that cannot be manufactured, and accounts from the set describe a professional atmosphere that was, in many respects, genuinely warm. Gibson persuaded Hawn to perform stunts she had initially refused, including a roller coaster sequence in Vancouver that she later described as far less frightening than she had feared. At the time, everything looked fine. What neither Hawn nor anyone else working in Hollywood fully understood in 1990 was the depth of Gibson's private character flaws and the trajectory those flaws would eventually follow. In July 2006, Gibson was arrested on the Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu on suspicion of driving under the influence. The arrest report that became public documented a sustained anti-Semitic tirade directed at the arresting officers, during which Gibson stated that Jewish people were responsible for all the wars in the world. The remarks were widely condemned. Gibson issued apologies and sought meetings with Jewish community leaders, but the damage was severe and lasting. The 2006 arrest was followed in 2010 by the release of recorded audio capturing Gibson directing racist and abusive language at his then-girlfriend Oksana Grigorieva, who also alleged he had been physically violent toward her. Gibson himself later acknowledged that the combination of these episodes had effectively ended his career, describing himself as the poster boy for being canceled. Robert Downey Jr., who is Jewish and who had worked with Gibson on Air America in 1990, publicly advocated on Gibson's behalf at the 2011 American Cinema Awards, urging Hollywood to allow him a second chance. The gesture was widely noted as an act of remarkable generosity. For Hawn, who is Jewish, and whose entire career was built in an industry heavily shaped by the Jewish community. The discovery that a man she had worked closely beside held views of this nature was more than a professional disappointment. She had shared scenes with Gibson, trusted him enough to perform physical stunts at his encouragement, and generated the kind of genuine rapport that required a degree of personal openness. Looking back at Bird on a Wire from the vantage point of what later became known about Gibson's character, the warmth of that production takes on a different quality entirely. What felt like connection was partial knowledge at best. Hollywood has always looked glamorous from the outside, but Goldie Hawn's latest revelations prove that not every co-star relationship was picture perfect. At 80, she's naming the 6 actors she reportedly hated most, and the reasons behind it only get more intense as the list unfolds. Stay with this till the end. Number 3. Bill Murray. Bill Murray occupies a unique position in the cultural imagination of American comedy. He is simultaneously celebrated as one of the most genuinely talented performers of his generation, and acknowledged, with increasing directness in recent years, as someone whose behavior toward collaborators has led to difficult working experiences across decades of productions. His ascent through Saturday Night Live in the late 1970s placed him at the center of the same comedic universe that Goldie Hawn was navigating during her own peak years, and the intersection of those worlds produced a dynamic that Hawn has described with a careful but unmistakable wariness. Murray replaced Chevy Chase on Weekend Update after Chase's departure from Saturday Night Live in 1975. He quickly established himself as one of the show's most inventive and irreverent performers, building a screen persona rooted in a particular kind of gleeful detachment that audiences found enormously appealing. That same detachment, however, carried a cutting edge that extended well beyond performance. Multiple accounts from collaborators across decades describe a man who deployed sarcasm and unpredictability as instruments of dominance, leaving those around him perpetually uncertain and off balance. The pattern documented around his behavior is consistent: charm deployed as control. Murray's history of documented friction with colleagues spans his entire career. His physical altercation with Chevy Chase backstage at Saturday Night Live in 1978 was witnessed by multiple cast members who described it as genuinely distressing, not comedic. Reports from multiple film sets across subsequent decades describe a performer whose genius is inseparable from a profound difficulty in accepting boundaries or demonstrating consistent regard for those around him. During the production of the 2021 film Being Mortal, Murray was dismissed from the set following a complaint about his behavior on set, prompting a production suspension that temporarily halted the entire project. For Hawn, whose entire approach to her career involved a fierce insistence on professionalism and a willingness to fight for creative environments that were collaborative rather than dominated by a single unchecked personality, performers like Murray represented a specific kind of frustration. The talent is undeniable. The work speaks for itself, but talent exercised without consideration for the people required to support it creates conditions that Hawn has spent her career actively resisting. Her daughter Kate Hudson's own candid acknowledgement that Hawn was labeled difficult and complicated in the 1970s and 80s precisely because she refused to simply comply without question reveals just how clearly Hawn understood the difference between genuine difficulty and the difficulty of demanding respect. Number 2. Peter Sellers. When Goldie Hawn traveled to England in 1970 to film There's a Girl in My Soup alongside Peter Sellers, she was 24 years old, had just won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for Cactus Flower, and was already developing a reputation as one of the most luminous and instinctively gifted comedic performers of her generation. Sellers was 44, one of the most celebrated actors in the world, a man who had survived a series of heart attacks, including one in 1964 that left him clinically dead for several minutes before resuscitation. He was also, by the accounts of nearly everyone who worked with him throughout his career, one of the most difficult human beings that the profession of acting had ever produced. The documented history of Sellers' behavior on productions is extensive and unambiguous. His combination of ego and insecurity, which colleagues throughout his career consistently identified as the defining tension of his character, made him capable of extraordinary generosity in one moment and arbitrary cruelty in the next. He had a documented habit of withdrawing emotionally from productions without warning, refusing to speak to directors or co-stars for days at a stretch, for reasons that rarely had any rational basis. His belief that he lacked a genuine personal identity outside of the characters he played was something he discussed openly in interviews, and the psychological instability that accompanied this belief expressed itself in behavior that created sustained anxiety among his collaborators. There's a Girl in My Soup, the British romantic comedy directed by Roy Bolting, cast Sellers as Robert Danvers, an egotistical and vain television personality whose womanizing behavior meets its match in Hawn's younger, free-spirited American character, Marion. The film was adapted from Terence Frisbee's stage play of the same name, which had been a significant theatrical success. Hawn earned a BAFTA nomination for Best Actress for her performance. Critics noted that while the film placed Sellers in a role that called for rakish charm and physical ease, he was somewhat miscast, his comic genius more naturally suited to characters defined by absurdity and extremity than by the relaxed confidence of a practiced seducer. Working opposite Sellers at 24, in a foreign country, on only her third film, required Hawn to navigate a personality significantly more volatile and unpredictable than anything she had previously encountered. Sellers died in 1980 at the age of 54, leaving behind a body of work that included some of the most astonishing performances in the history of cinema, and also a trail of damaged relationships and professional wreckage that those who knew him best never fully processed. The encounter with Sellers was formative for Hawn in ways that extended beyond craft. It was an early lesson in the relationship between genius and accountability, and the particular danger of environments where the former is used to excuse the absence of the latter. Fans spent years seeing Goldie Hawn as one of Hollywood's warmest and most lovable stars, which is exactly why these latest claims feel so unexpected. She's opening up about 6 actors she absolutely disliked working with, and some of the stories behind these tensions are hard to believe. Don't miss what's coming next. Number 1. Bill Hudson. Bill Hudson, a member of the 1970s pop group the Hudson Brothers, married Goldie Hawn in 1976. Their marriage lasted until 1980, producing 2 children, Oliver Hudson and Kate Hudson, both of whom went on to become successful actors in their own right. The marriage ended during the same period that Hawn was producing and starring in Private Benjamin, the film that earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress and cemented her position as one of the most commercially powerful performers in Hollywood. The timing was not coincidental. Hawn's ascent to a new level of creative and professional authority coincided precisely with the collapse of a marriage to a man who, by multiple accounts from within the family, struggled profoundly with that transformation. The bitterness that defined the post-divorce dynamic between Hawn and Hudson became publicly visible in 2015 when Oliver Hudson posted a photograph on social media on Father's Day captioned with the words, "Happy Abandonment Day." The post escalated rapidly into a full public rupture, with Bill Hudson responding in an interview with the British newspaper The Daily Mail by declaring both Oliver and Kate effectively dead to him and demanding that they stop using the Hudson surname. He accused Goldie Hawn directly of what he described as willfully alienating him from his 2 eldest children, claiming that when Kurt Russell entered Hawn's life in 1983, the narrative around him changed, and he became the story's villain. Hawn's own description of Hudson as an absentee father was corroborated by both Oliver and Kate Hudson, who have spoken in various interviews about the emotional consequences of growing up without a present biological father while experiencing genuine paternal love and engagement from Kurt Russell, whom they both refer to as Pa. Kate has spoken with particular directness about the 40-year weight of this wound while simultaneously acknowledging that she has done the emotional work required to reach a place of acceptance. Oliver's 2015 Instagram post, whatever its intent, crystallized something that had been building for decades. The Hudson situation sits differently in Hawn's reflections than the professional conflicts with co-stars and directors, because the damage here was not contained within the boundaries of a single production. It shaped her children's lives, her own understanding of what loyalty and responsibility look like in practice, and the long, quiet process of building a family that could withstand the pressures of an industry designed to fracture ordinary human bonds. By 2024, small gestures of reconciliation between the Hudson siblings and their biological father were beginning to emerge. Kate acknowledged that things were warming up and that she had no expectation of what the relationship might ultimately become. Some distances, Hawn understands, cannot be fully closed, but acknowledgement still has its place. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.